It seems today that all you see is violence in movies and sex on TV.
And wouldn't that be true for this show? Family Guy, created by Seth MacFarlane and partly voiced by him, is a comedy show about a somewhat dysfunctional family to a functional family. We follow the story of the Griffin family and follow their comedic adventures as they go on through life. However, being the popular show that it is, it does have a lot of flaws with a lot of bad episodes. One of these episodes is Seahorse Seashell Party. It starts off with a rainy day in Quahog. Apparently, the news reporter is saying that there is a hurricane going on for the next 36 hours. Later, the TV goes off due to the storm knocking off the satellite. Then later, they have a cutaway where they were trying to do an intentional racist joke.
We do! Hey kids, if you have an open wound, get some dirt or kitty litter
And the joke was so bad that it didn't work. We're already off to a great start, aren't we? Anyway, cutting to Brian and Stewie's story, Brian is looking for his secret stash of mushrooms. Considering that the family in this show is pretty stupid, I don't see the point on him doing this. Stewie spots this and wants to know what's going on.
What you got there?
Okay, I'll tell you, but you can't tell anyone.
Really, dude? Is that the amount of trust you have for your friend? I mean, Stewie Griffin created a time machine and he showed it to you and you can't share a secret? So it turns out that Brian is taking this to pass the time while the storm is going on. Stewie is cool with this, rendering that scene of asking him is completely pointless. Cut back to the rest of the family and it turns out that everyone is bored. Lois makes an idea to play charades.
It's me first. Okay, it's a movie, alright? Movie.
Peter, there's no talking in charades.
Actually, there can be if you're trying to reenact a character from a movie. And Peter, being the dumbass he is, just gives it away for no reason, rendering another useless comedic scene. Family's still bored and Peter ends up making some dad noises, which is really pointless and unfunny. And I promise you, this goes on for way too unnecessarily long. Peter eventually goes upstairs, which renders another pointless, uncomedic scene. We cut back to Brian and it seems like the mushrooms are starting to take effect. I never really experienced taking mushrooms and nor do I plan to, but I think what I'm seeing here is a little disgusting and at the same time weird. And especially this scene is pretty weird too. Anyway, the family's still bored and still cannot find out what to do. Peter decides to play finger bang. He finger bangs Chris, then Chris finger bangs back at him. Lois joins in the fun as well and finger bangs both Chris and Peter, and then Meg joins in and nobody likes her.
Finger bang by you, Meg.
Why don't you just go do that to yourself, Meg?
I think I'm gonna be sick.
I still can't seem to understand this utter disrespect for Meg that this family has for some reason, which is still a mystery to me. They're treating her as if she's the daughter of Hitler or something. Cut to Stewie and he goes to the bathroom finding Brian who's about to cut his ears off. And when he does, this scene is completely disgusting and irritatingly cringeworthy. Brian falls unconscious and Stewie starts playing with his ear, which is even worse.
Aha!
Okay, first off, correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I've never taken shrooms, and if you have, please feel free to let me know. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't hurt yourself like that if you've ever taken shrooms. Stewie stitches up Brian, and Brian is still having hallucinations about taking the shrooms. I don't know if the writers were thinking if this would be funny or not, but it just comes off as weird and gross. We later get a gag at Lady Gaga talking about her having a big vagina, which again is not funny and is completely weird. After Stewie's done stitching up Brian, we get another weird scene like this. Look, writers, we get that Brian is high, but you don't need to show it over and over again. It's actually coming to a point where it's really not funny anymore. Anyway, aside from Brian's hallucination, where this time they're actually overdoing it with that rain scene, the family is still bored and Peter decides to have a sing-along and it goes way too unnecessarily long. And I'm not kidding when I say this thing goes on forever. Later, Meg opens a soda can and Peter starts acting like a dick because he hates her. Meg, not taking that shit, stands up against her father and then starts arguing with him. And then the whole family gets in the argument. Am I sensing a good plot here? Later, the story does a cutaway at the worst possible time. Look, I know Family Guy is about the cutaways, but they could at least do a little better than this. because in this episode, they do it way too often. Cut back to Brian and Stewie, and it seems like Stewie is tucking in Brian to make sure that he can get over this acid trip that he's having. And when Brian goes to sleep, he starts having a weird dream. It's at this point you understand what the animator's budget was spent on. Yeah, I didn't mention this, the animation for the rest of the thing is pretty bad. Whereas for here, it looks more detailed and strong. Despite that, this dream just looks weird. You know, like, it's not even funny, it's not even scary, it just looks weird. But, like all acid trips, it must come to an end, and Brian's is about to come to an end. He wakes up from his acid trip, and right now he's thirsty. Stewie agrees to take him downstairs to get some water. Anyway, cut back to the family. Oh my god, Meg is finally doing it. She's finally standing up for herself. I mean, this story might actually get interesting. I mean, yeah, sure, they had some pretty shitty storytelling in this whole episode, but at least they could build back from it, right? She did it. She exposed her mom for the piece of shit that she is. Objective 2, Meg. It's time for you to call off that fat ass you have as a father. Oh my god, she did it. She finally exposed the family for the piece of shit that they are. Maybe now she can get a little bit more respect in the show. Because let's be honest, that abuse that she's been facing is completely unnecessary and completely uncalled for, and is one of the reasons I hate the show. But of course, the story goes full retard.
Do you think it's possible that this family can't survive without some sort of lightning rod to absorb all the dysfunction?
So, wait, let me get this straight. I mean, if the only way that this family can function is continuously having to abuse someone, it shows that there's definitely something wrong with the family. I'm not saying that it's funny or whatever, but there is something seriously wrong with that family if that's the only way that they can function. See, this is the main problem with the show. They always delve into problems that need to be solved, that need to be dealt with properly. But in the end, they always make it look like a joke, and it's not funny. I know this cartoon's also meant to be offensive and all, but they also have those heartwarming moments. But the problem is, it just doesn't work if you take that as a joke as well. Meg decides she's going to apologize to her family for telling the truth. She finds Peter crying in a closet, and everyone eventually joins in, and she apologizes to everyone. Despite the flaws of the other parts of this episode could have been redeemed. This episode could have been a little bit better. But of course, they fuck it up with this thing. Then again, considering that the family's pretty retarded, what did I expect? Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I am the Hateful Critic signing out.